This story is fictional and meant to promote kindness and awareness about rare conditions like poliosis. We believe beauty comes in all forms. No disrespect is intended toward anyone. Get her out of my sight. I'm trying to eat, and she looks like a witch. The words didn't sting anymore. They were just noise, like the grinding of the espresso machine or the clatter of porcelain in the sink. I didn't flinch. I didn't look down. I just held the tray tighter, my knuckles popping against the metal, and stared at the man in the expensive suit who was pointing a manicured finger at my face. "Sir," I said, my voice steady, smooth as the black coffee in the pot. "I can assure you, my hair has no effect on the taste of your latte. However, if my presence disturbs you, I can ask one of my colleagues to take over." He sneered, looking at the silver streak that ran from my hairline, stark white against the deep black of my natural curls. It was poliosis. A lack of pigment. A patch of moonlight in a midnight sky. To my mother, it was a blessing. To the customers at Loom, the most pretentious art cafe in Seoul, it was a defect. "It's not just the hair," the man laughed, looking around for approval from his friends. "It's the whole vibe. It's unnatural." "Hey, manager. Why do you have a skunk serving VIPs? The cafe went quiet. This was the moment most people would cry. My manager, Mr. Choi, was already rushing over, his face red, looking ready to apologize to the customer and scream at me. But I just smiled. A cold, professional smile that didn't reach my eyes. "I'll send someone else, sir," I said, turning on my heel with military precision. I walked away with my back straight. My grandmother used to tell me, "Iris, never let them see you bleed. If you bleed, the sharks will come." I walked into the kitchen, the heavy swing doors cutting off the laughter behind me. I set the tray down on the counter, exhaled a long, shaky breath, and looked at my reflection in the stainless steel fridge. The silver streak was bold today. I stopped trying to dye it 3 months ago. The dye always washed out anyway, leaving it looking muddy and stained. "I hate them," I whispered to the steel. "They hate you too, darling. Look at the board." I turned to see Mina, one of the other waitresses, smirking as she pointed her phone at me. She showed me the Loom app. The cafe allowed customers to rate their servers in real time. It was sick. It was twisted. And it was exactly why this place was always full of shallow people. There I was, at the bottom of the list. Rank, 12 to 12. Name, Iris. Comments, scary looking, is she sick, bad luck charm. I took the phone from her hand, swiped the screen off, and handed it back. "If you spent as much time cleaning tables as you do checking my ranking, Mina, maybe it wouldn't be number 4. I walked past her to the sink. I needed money. That was the only reason I stayed. I was an artist, a painter, but paint cost money and rent in Seoul for a foreigner wasn't cheap. So I endured. I became stone. But the stone was starting to crack. Before we dive deeper into Iris's life and the man who is about to change everything, please take a second to subscribe to Stories Pulse. Like this video and comment down below where you are watching from. If you are new here, welcome to the family. If you are returning, welcome back. Let's get back to the story. The rain started an hour later. It wasn't a soft drizzle. It was a hard, angry rain that hammered against the floor-to-ceiling glass windows of the cafe. The sky turned a bruised purple, casting long shadows across the marble floors. The dinner rush was slowing down. I was wiping down table 7, lost in my own head. I had a small napkin in my pocket where I had been sketching the face of the man who insulted me earlier, but in my drawing, he wasn't a man. He was a gargoyle. Twisted, ugly, with a hollow chest. Drawing was my revenge. It was how I kept my sanity. The bell above the door didn't just chime, it seemed to announce something heavy. The air in the cafe changed. You know that feeling when the atmospheric pressure drops right before a storm? That's what it felt like. Conversations stopped. The clinking of forks against plates ceased. I looked up. 3 men in black suits walked in first. They were big, broad-shouldered, and had earpieces. They scanned the room like they were clearing a perimeter. Then, they stepped aside. He walked in. He was tall. Dangerously tall. He wore a charcoal gray suit that fit him so perfectly it looked like a second skin. He didn't have an umbrella, but he was dry, as if the rain hadn't dared to touch him. His hair was jet black, swept back, revealing a forehead and eyes that were sharp, cold, and utterly bored. He looked like a king walking into a peasant's hut. Manager Choi practically sprinted from the back office. Director Park. We didn't know you were coming. Please, please, the VIP section is open. Mina, get the best table ready. Director Park. I had heard the name. Everyone in the city knew the name, but no one really knew what he did. Some said he owned half the real estate in Gangnam. Others whispered that he ran the syndicates that operated in the shadows of the ports. Looking at him, looking at the way the light seemed to dim around him, I believed the second rumor. Mina was already there, fluffing her hair, unbuttoning the top button of her blouse, putting on her best, I'm helpless and cute smile. She led him to the best table near the window, the one with the velvet chairs. Right this way, director, she cooed. I'll be taking care of you personally tonight. He didn't even look at her. He walked past her like she was a piece of furniture. He stopped in the middle of the room. His eyes, dark and unreadable, scanned the cafe. He looked at the art on the walls, pretentious, overpriced abstract blobs that the owner thought were masterpieces. He frowned. A look of pure distaste crossed his face. Then he turned. I was standing in the corner, holding my rag, trying to make myself invisible. I knew men like him. They wanted perfection. They wanted the Mina types. They didn't want the girl with the silver streak and the dark skin who looked like a bad luck charm. His eyes landed on me. My heart slammed against my ribs. Don't look at the hair, I prayed. Please, just look away. He didn't look away. His gaze locked onto me, heavy and physical. He tilted his head slightly to the side, his eyes narrowing. He wasn't looking at my uniform. He wasn't looking at my body. He was staring directly at the white streak in my hair. I braced myself for the smirk. I waited for the laugh. But he didn't laugh. He started walking. He walked right past the VIP table. He walked past Mina, who was left standing there with her menu open. He walked straight toward my section, the worst section, the one near the kitchen doors where the draft was cold. He sat down at table 4. My table. The entire cafe was watching. Manager Choi looked like he was having a heart attack. He waved his hands frantically at Mina to go over there, but the director raised one hand. A single finger. Stop. Mina froze. The director looked at me. Up close, he was devastating. He had a scar, faint and thin, running through his left eyebrow. It made him look less like a CEO and more like a warrior. Coffee, he said. His voice was deep, a low rumble that I felt on the floorboards. Black. No sugar. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Yes, sir. I hurried to the machine. My hands were shaking. Why did he sit there? Was he mocking me? Was this a game? Maybe he wanted to get a closer look at the freak show so he could tell his friends later. I poured the coffee. I checked the cup 3 times to make sure there were no spots. I placed it on a saucer. I walked back to him, conscious of every step. Here is your coffee, director, I said softly, placing it down. He didn't drink it. He just sat there, watching me. It was unnerving. Your name, he said. Iris, sir. Iris, he repeated. He said it slowly, testing the weight of the word on his tongue. The flower that blooms in adversity. I blinked. I suppose so. He reached out. For a second, I thought he was going to touch me, and I almost pulled back. But he didn't reach for me. He reached for the pocket of my apron. My breath hitched. The napkin. The drawing. I had forgotten to hide it properly. The corner of the napkin was sticking out. He pulled it out gently with 2 fingers. No, please, it's nothing. It's just trash, I stammered, panic rising. If he saw the angry, twisted drawing of the customer, I would be fired. He unfolded the napkin on the table. He smoothed out the wrinkles. He looked at the sketch of the gargoyle man in the suit, the angry lines, the chaotic shading I had done with a cheap ballpoint pen. Silence stretched between us. It felt like an hour. "You drew this?" he asked, not looking up. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I was just frustrated." "I'll throw it away. Please don't tell the manager." "Why would I tell the manager?" He finally looked up at me. His eyes were intense, burning with something I couldn't identify. "This is the only honest thing in this entire building." I froze. "What?" "The art on these walls," he gestured vaguely to the expensive paintings around us, "is garbage. It has no soul. It's painted by people who want to be famous, not people who feel something." He tapped his finger on the napkin. "But this is rage. This is true." He looked at me then, really looked at me. His gaze moved from my eyes up to my hair. He didn't squint. He didn't sneer. He looked at the silver streak with a kind of hunger. Not a sexual hunger, but the hunger of a collector who has found a rare diamond in a pile of coal. "Why do you work here, Iris?" "I have bills to pay, sir." "You are wasting your time." "We don't all have the luxury of choice, director." The words slipped out before I could stop them. I bit my lip. I shouldn't have been so sassy. But the corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "Choice," he murmured. "A luxury indeed." Suddenly, Manager Choi appeared at the table, breathless and sweating. "Director Park. I am so sorry. Is this girl bothering you? I can have her removed." "Iris, get back to the kitchen. I told you not to disturb the VIPs." Manager Choi reached out to grab my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. "Move, you stupid." Bam. Director Park's hand shot out and clamped around Manager Choi's wrist. He didn't even stand up. He just grabbed the manager's wrist and squeezed. The manager gasped, dropping my arm. "Director." Choi squeaked, his face losing all color. Park Min-jun's voice dropped an octave. It was quiet, deadly. "Did I give you permission to touch her?" I just thought, she has the condition. The hair, it's bad for the image." Park Min-jun stood up then. Slowly. He towered over the manager. He released the man's wrist with a shove. "Bad for the image?" Minjun repeated. He turned to me. The whole restaurant was silent. You could hear a pin drop. He stepped closer to me. He was so close I could smell him, sandalwood, rain, and expensive tobacco. He raised his hand. This time, I didn't flinch. He tucked a loose curl of my black hair behind my ear, his fingers brushing against the silver streak. His skin was cold, his rings heavy. He didn't rush. He let his fingers linger on the white strand. "You are blind," Minjun said to the manager, but he kept his eyes on me. "You surround yourself with fake gold and plastic flowers, so you do not recognize a masterpiece when it is serving you coffee." My heart stopped. "Masterpiece?" He turned back to the terrified manager. "She is serving me tonight. Only her. If anyone else approaches this table, I will buy this building and evict you by morning. Do you understand?" Yes. Yes, director. Of course. The manager scrambled away like a kicked dog. Minjun sat back down. He picked up the napkin with my drawing and folded it neatly, putting it into the breast pocket of his suit, right over his heart. "Now, Iris," he said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. "Sit. The coffee is getting cold, and I hate drinking alone." I can't sit, sir. I'm on shift." "I'm buying your shift," he said simply, pulling a black credit card from his pocket and placing it on the table. "Sit." I sat. This was the beginning. I didn't know it then, but the moment my knees touched that chair, my old life was over. The waitress with the bad luck hair was gone. But I had no idea that by sitting down, I was standing up to a danger far greater than a rude manager. I was entering his world. And in his world, silver wasn't just a color. It was a target. Sitting across from Director Park Min-jun was like sitting across from a tiger that had decided, for no apparent reason, not to eat you yet. The cafe was buzzing with whispers, but at our table, the silence was heavy. He didn't touch his coffee. He just watched me. His eyes traced the line of my jaw, the curve of my neck, and kept returning to my hair. It wasn't the look of disgust I was used to. It was study. He was memorizing me. "You are uncomfortable," he stated. It wasn't a question. "I'm not used to sitting with customers, sir. Especially not men like you. Men like me." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. The expensive fabric of his suit made a soft, rustling sound. "And what kind of man am I, Iris?" I hesitated. My grandmother taught me to be honest, but my survival instinct told me to lie. Looking at the scar through his eyebrow, at the dark, intelligent eyes that seemed to see right through my uniform, I knew lying would be an insult. "Dangerous," I whispered. "You are a dangerous man, Director." For the first time, a genuine smile touched his lips. It didn't reach his eyes, but it softened the sharp angles of his face. "Perceptive. Most people just see the money. You see the teeth." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek, black card. He slid it across the marble table. It wasn't a business card. It was an invitation. "Tomorrow night. The Golden Seoul Gala. Are you familiar with it?" I nodded. "Everyone knows it. It's where the richest people in Korea go to pretend they like art." He chuckled, a low, dark sound. "Exactly. I need a perspective there. Someone who can tell the difference between a masterpiece and a forgery. I'm a waitress, Director. Not an art critic." "You're an artist," he corrected firmly. He tapped his chest pocket where he had put my napkin sketch. "And you have eyes that see the truth. Manager Choi will assign you to the catering team for the event. I have already arranged it." "You arranged for me to work?" I was confused. Usually, rich men asked girls to accompany them, not serve them. "I want you in the room," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper that made the hair on my arms stand up. "But I cannot bring you as my guest yet. It would put a target on your back before I am ready to shield you. So, you will work. But you will be watching. And I will be watching you." He stood up abruptly. The air in the room seemed to rush back in as his presence lifted. He looked down at me one last time. "Do not dye your hair for tomorrow, Iris. If I see even a drop of black dye covering that silver, I will be very disappointed. It insults the canvas." And then he was gone. The next 24 hours were a blur of anxiety. Manager Choi was furious, but he was too terrified of Director Park to disobey. He barked orders at me, tossing a catering uniform at my chest. "You are lucky, Choi spat. I don't know what game the director is playing, but don't think you're special. You're just a novelty to him. A weird pet. Keep your head down, serve the champagne, and stay out of the photos. We don't need your condition ruining the event's aesthetic." I didn't argue. I took the uniform. It was a simple black dress, high-collared, designed to make the staff invisible. But nothing could make me invisible. The Golden Seoul Gala was held in a massive glass hall overlooking the Han River. It was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers the size of cars hung from the ceiling. The room smelled of expensive perfume, lilies, and old money. I walked through the crowd with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. I felt like an alien. The women wore gowns that cost more than my entire life's earnings, silks in red, gold, and emerald. The men were in tuxedos, laughing loudly, drinking deeply. I kept my head down, but I felt eyes on me. People stopped mid-sentence as I walked by. I heard the whispers. "Look at her hair. Is that a disease? Why did they hire her?" I tightened my grip on the tray. "Stone," I told myself. "Be stone." Then I saw him. Director Park Min-jun was standing on the balcony level, looking down at the crowd like a king surveying his subjects. He was wearing a tuxedo that fit him so sharply it looked like a weapon. He held a glass of whiskey, but he wasn't drinking. He was looking for someone. His eyes swept the room, bored and cold, until they locked onto me. Even from that distance, I felt the impact. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just held my gaze across the sea of glittering, fake people. He raised his glass slightly, an imperceptible toast. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. He saw me. In a room full of supermodels and heiresses, The dangerous king of Seoul was looking at the waitress with the white streak. But someone else saw him looking at me. Hannah. She was the daughter of a tech mogul, known in the tabloids as Korea's princess. She was beautiful, yes, but in a plastic, manufactured way. She was wearing a sparkling silver dress that was clearly meant to be the center of attention. She followed Minjun's gaze. She saw me. Her eyes narrowed. She whispered something to her two friends, girls who looked like clones of her, and they giggled. They started moving toward me, like sharks smelling blood in the water. I tried to turn away. I tried to head toward the kitchen. I wanted no trouble. Excuse me. Hannah's voice was high and sharp. I froze. I turned around slowly. Yes, miss? Would you like a canapé? Hannah didn't look at the food. She looked at my hair with a face full of exaggerated disgust. She stepped uncomfortably close, invading my personal space. I was wondering, she said, loud enough for the nearby circle of people to hear. Is it true that the catering company is hiring from the circus now? Or is it a Halloween theme? The group around her laughed. It was a cruel, jagged sound. I am just doing my job, miss, I said quietly. Well, you're doing a bad job, she sneered. You're distracting the guests. It's unsightly. My father paid a lot of money for this table, and I don't want to look at a skunk while I eat. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. Don't cry. Do not give her the satisfaction. I apologize if my appearance offends you, I said, trying to step back. I will move to the other side of the room. No, she said, stepping forward again. She held a glass of red wine in her hand. Her eyes glittered with malice. I think you should just leave. Here. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a few bills. She crumbled them up and threw them at my chest. They fluttered to the floor like trash. Take it. Go buy a wig. Or some dye. Fix yourself. The humiliation was a physical blow. The music seemed to stop. People were staring. Some looked uncomfortable, but no one said anything. They were all afraid of her father. They were all part of the same cruel club. I looked at the money on the floor. I looked at her. My hair is not a costume, I said, my voice shaking but audible. And my dignity is not for sale. Hannah's face twisted. She wasn't used to servants talking back. Oops, she said. She tilted her hand. The glass of dark red wine tipped forward. It happened in slow motion. The wine splashed onto my white apron. It splashed onto my neck. And it splashed onto the silver streak in my hair, staining the white purity with a blood-red blotch. The crowd gasped. Oh no, Hannah laughed, covering her mouth with a fake shock. Now you really look like a mess. You should definitely go now. I stood there, the cold wine dripping down my skin, the sticky feeling in my hair. I felt small. I felt dirty. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. I turned to run. I couldn't let them see me cry. But before I could take a step, a shadow fell over us. The air temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. The chatter in the room died instantly. Who? A voice thundered from behind me, low and terrifying, spilled wine on my curator. I turned. Director Park was there. He wasn't on the balcony anymore. He was standing right behind me. And he looked like he was ready to burn the entire building down. The silence that followed was absolute. It wasn't just quiet, it was the kind of silence that happens right before a predator strikes. The clinking of glasses, the murmur of gossip, the soft jazz music, it all vanished. Director Park stood less than a foot behind me. I could feel the heat radiating off his body. He wasn't looking at me, though. He was looking at Hannah. His gaze was so intense, so full of icy rage, that I saw Hannah physically shrink back. Her confident smirk faltered, replaced by the trembling realization that she had just made a very, very big mistake. Director Park, Hannah stammered, her voice suddenly small. I didn't know. I mean, she's just a waitress. Look at her, She is what? Min-jun cut her off. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried across the room like a crack of thunder. He took a slow step forward, placing himself between me and Hannah. He was a wall of black silk and fury. "She is ruining the photo," Hannah whispered weakly, glancing at her friends for support, but they had already backed away, abandoning her. Minjun laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Ruining the photo?" He looked around the room, his eyes sweeping over the crowd of elites. "You are all wearing gold, diamonds, silk. You spend millions trying to stand out, trying to be unique." He turned back to Hannah, looking her up and down with open disdain. "And yet, you all look exactly the same." He turned to me. For the first time since he appeared, his face softened. The rage evaporated from his eyes, replaced by that same intense curiosity, that hunger I had seen in the cafe. He ignored the red wine dripping from my apron. He ignored the whispers of the crowd. He reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a pristine white handkerchief. "Do not move," he commanded softly. He raised his hand to my face. I stopped breathing. The entire room watched, mesmerized. The ruthless director Park, the man who was rumored to have broken a rival's fingers for touching his car, was now gently, almost reverently, wiping a smudge of wine from my cheek. Then he did something that made the whole room gasp. He reached for my hair. He took the wine-stained lock of my silver streak between his fingers. He didn't look disgusted. He looked like he was handling a damaged Da Vinci painting. "Gold and diamonds are common," he said, his voice ringing out clearly now, addressing the entire room. "I can buy them anywhere. I can buy this entire building. I can buy your company." He looked into my eyes, and for a moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the universe. But silver running through the darkness? He brushed the wet hair away from my face, his knuckles grazing my skin, sending a jolt of electricity down my spine. "That is rare. That is nature refusing to conform. That is a masterpiece." He turned back to Hannah. "And you, little girl, just threw cheap wine on a masterpiece." Hannah was pale. I'm sorry, director. I can pay for the cleaning." "You cannot afford her," Min-jun said coldly. He turned to me and held out his arm. It was a gesture from another century, formal, protective, undeniable. "Iris," he said. "You are done serving these people. Take off the apron." "Sir," I whispered, my hands trembling. "Take it off. You are not a servant. Not anymore. Tonight, you are with me." I hesitated. My brain was screaming that this was insane, that I would be fired, that this was a dream. But looking at his face, I saw a promise. A promise that if I took his arm, no one would ever dare to laugh at me again. I untied the apron. I let it fall to the floor, right onto the crumpled money Hannah had thrown at me. I stood there in my simple black dress, the wine stains still visible on my collar, my silver streak damp and messy. I felt exposed. But then I felt his hand wrap around my arm, warm and solid. "Walk with me," he whispered. "Head high. Do not look down." And so I walked. I walked through the Golden Seoul Gala on the arm of the most dangerous man in the city. We parted the crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea. I saw Manager Choi in the corner, his mouth hanging open. I saw the photographers snapping pictures, the flashbulbs blinding me. But I didn't look down. I looked straight ahead, feeling the strength of the man beside me seep into my bones. We reached the exit, and the cool night air hit my face. His car, a sleek black sedan that looked more like a tank, was waiting. A driver opened the door. Min-jun helped me in, protecting my head with his hand. He slid in beside me, and the heavy door thudded shut, sealing out the noise, the judgment, and the world. The car began to move, gliding silently through the rain-slicked streets of Seoul. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence was thick, filled with unasked questions. I sat stiffly, staring at my hands, afraid to look at him. What had just happened? What did he want? "You are shaking," he said. He reached over and turned up the heat. Then he opened a compartment and pulled out a bottle of water. He cracked the seal and handed it to me. "Drink." I took a sip. My throat was dry. "Thank you," I whispered. For back there. You didn't have to do that. I did not do it for you, he said, looking out the window at the passing city lights. I blinked. What? He turned to look at me. The shadows of the street lights played across his face, highlighting the sharp angle of his jaw and the scar on his brow. I did not do it to be a hero, Iris. I despise heroes. They are predictable. He leaned back into the leather seat, watching me with that unreadable expression. I did it because I hate waste. To see something unique being treated like garbage by people who are nothing but plastic, it offends me. So I'm just an object to you? I asked, a spark of my earlier anger returning. A rare painting you want to save from a fire? He smiled. For now. Yes. It was a cruel answer, but an honest one. But paintings don't talk back, he added softly. And paintings don't draw angry gargoyles on napkins. The car turned onto a private road that wound up a hill. We were heading toward the mountains, away from the city center. Where are we going? I asked, panic flaring up again. My home, he said simply. I can't go to your home, director. I don't know you. I'm not that kind of girl. He looked at me, and his expression hardened. If I wanted a woman for the night, Iris, I could have picked any of those women at the gala. They would have thanked me. Do not insult my intelligence. He pressed a button on the armrest, and a glass partition slid up, separating us from the driver. Privacy. I told you, he said, his voice low. I need a curator. My collection is extensive and private. I need someone with eyes like yours to manage it, to find the fakes, to organize the chaos. You want to hire me? I already have. Double your salary at the cafe. Room and board included. You start tonight. But, no buts. If you go back to your apartment tonight, you will just be the waitress who got fired. Tomorrow, you will be a joke in the tabloids. But if you enter my house tonight, tomorrow, you will be a mystery. And people respect mysteries. The car slowed to a stop. We were in front of a massive, modern mansion made of glass and steel, perched on the edge of a cliff. It looked like a fortress. We are here, he said. The door opened. He stepped out and offered me his hand again. I looked at his hand. I looked at the dark house. I thought about my tiny, damp apartment with the leaking ceiling. I thought about Hannah's laugh. I thought about the way he had touched my hair as if it were precious. I took his hand. Inside, the house was silent and cold. It was beautiful, but empty. The walls were covered in art, but the rooms felt lonely. You're hungry, he said. He led me to a massive kitchen. Sit. He took off his tuxedo jacket and rolled up his sleeves, revealing muscular forearms and a tattoo of a dragon winding around his left wrist. He opened the fridge. I will cook, he said. My jaw dropped. You? But you're a billionaire. And billionaires need to eat, he muttered, pulling out vegetables, beef, and spices. I do not like chefs in my house at night. I like quiet. I watched him. The ruthless director Park, chopping green onions with the precision of a surgeon. It was domestic. Intimate. He made kimchi jjigae, a spicy stew. He placed a steaming bowl in front of me. Eat. It will warm you up. I took a spoonful. It was spicy, rich, and perfect. The warmth spread through my chest, chasing away the chill of the wine and the rain. It's good, I said, surprised. He sat across from me with a glass of whiskey. I learned to cook when I was young. Before the money. When we had nothing. You had nothing? We all start somewhere, Iris. My story is not so different from yours. People looked at me and saw trash. Street rat. Gangster. So I made them look up. He took a sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving my face. That is why I chose you. Not just for the hair. But because when that girl threw money at you, you didn't pick it up. He leaned forward. The air between us crackled. Most people would have picked it up. Pride is expensive, Iris. But you paid the price. My grandmother, I said softly, touching the silver streak self-consciously, said this hair is a crown. You don't bow when you're wearing a crown. Minjun froze. He stared at me. Then, slowly, he reached across the table. He didn't touch my hair this time. He touched my hand. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. A crown, he repeated, his voice husky. Yes, it is. The moment was shattered by the sound of his phone vibrating on the counter. It wasn't a normal ringtone. It was a sharp, urgent buzz. He glanced at the screen, and his face changed instantly. The warmth vanished. The mask slammed back down. The eyes went cold. He stood up. "Finish your meal," he said, his voice clipped. "There is a guest room down the hall, second door on the left. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me." "What's wrong?" I stood up too. "Business," he said. "The kind that stains." He walked to the door, grabbing his jacket. He paused, his hand on the handle. He didn't look back. "Iris?" "Yes." "Welcome home." Then he walked out into the night, leaving me alone in the glass castle, with the taste of his stew on my tongue and the ghost of his touch on my hand. I didn't know it then, but the phone call was from Jang. The war had started. And by bringing me here, Minjun hadn't just saved me. He had placed me right in the center of the battlefield. Before we continue to the next part of the story, remember to subscribe to Stories Pulse and hit that like button if you are enjoying this intense romance. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were Iris? Would you have gotten in the car? Let me know. The guest room was bigger than my entire apartment. The walls were glass, overlooking the glittering lights of Seoul, but blackout curtains offered privacy at the touch of a button. The bed was covered in silk sheets that felt like cool water against my skin. I locked the door, just as Minjun had ordered. The click of the lock echoed in the silence. I didn't sleep. How could I? My mind was replaying the gala, the car ride, the way his thumb had brushed my knuckles. A crown, he had called it. I showered in the ensuite bathroom, scrubbing the sticky residue of red wine from my skin. I washed my hair 3 times, watching the pink-tinted water swirl down the drain until my silver streak was pure white again. I stared at myself in the mirror. The steam had made my curls tight and springy. The silver lock fell over my left eye. For years, I had hated it. Tonight, for the first time, I looked at it and didn't see a flaw. I saw what he saw. Nature refuses to conform. I wrapped myself in a plush robe I found in the closet and sat by the window, watching the rain. It was 3 a.m. when I heard the front door open. It wasn't a gentle sound. It was a slam. Then, heavy footsteps. Not the measured, calm strides of Director Park. These were uneven. Stumbling. I froze. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me. I heard a crash, something glass shattering on the floor. Then a low groan of pain. My heart was in my throat. Was it him? Or was it someone else? An intruder? I crept to the door and pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. Then a ragged cough. Damn it, the voice was his. But it sounded weak. I hesitated. He had told me to stay inside. He was a dangerous man involved in dangerous business. If I went out there, I would see things I couldn't see. But then I heard the thud of a body hitting the floor. I unlocked the door. The hallway was dark, lit only by the ambient light from the city outside. I saw him at the end of the hall, near the kitchen entrance. Minjun was leaning against the wall, sliding down slowly. His white dress shirt was no longer white. It was soaked in red. And this time, it wasn't wine. Minjun. The name tore out of my throat. I forgot the director. I forgot the rules. I ran to him. He looked up, his eyes hazy and unfocused. He held a hand up to stop me. Go back, he wheezed. Iris, go back inside. You're bleeding, I said, my voice trembling. I dropped to my knees beside him. The smell of copper and rain was overwhelming. He was clutching his side. Blood was seeping through his fingers. It's nothing, he gritted out. Just a scratch. That is not a scratch. We need to call an ambulance. I reached for my pocket, but I didn't have my phone. No. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. His grip was weak, but his eyes were fierce. No ambulance. No police. They will ask questions. I cannot answer. Then what do we do? You'll bleed out. First aid kit, he gasped, tilting his head toward the kitchen. Under the sink. Blue box. Get it. I scrambled up, slipping on the polished floor in my haste. I ran to the kitchen, ripped open the cabinet doors, and found the blue metal box. I grabbed clean towels from a drawer and filled a bowl with warm water. I ran back to him. Can you walk? I asked. He nodded grimly. Help me up. I put his arm over my shoulders. He was heavy, dead weight. I gritted my teeth and heaved. We stumbled toward the living room sofa. I eased him down onto the white leather. This is going to ruin your couch, I said hysterically, trying to keep my panic down. Buy a new one, he muttered, his eyes closing. Stay awake. I slapped his cheek lightly. Minjun, look at me. Look at my hair. Look at the masterpiece, remember. His eyes fluttered open. He focused on the silver streak. A faint, pained smile touched his lips. Bright, he whispered. Like a beacon. I worked quickly. I cut his shirt open with the scissors from the kit. The wound was a long gash on his ribs. It was deep, but it didn't look like it hit any organs. A knife wound. This needs stitches, I said, looking at the needle and thread in the kit. My hands were shaking. I don't know if I can do this. You can, he rasped. He reached out and gripped my hand, studying it. You have steady hands. I saw you drawing. Just sew it. Like fabric. You are not fabric, I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. Do it, Iris. I took a deep breath. I cleaned the wound with alcohol. He hissed, his body arching off the sofa, muscles rigid. I'm sorry, I murmured. Just so, he groaned through clenched teeth. I threaded the needle. I focused. I pretended it was art. I pretended I was mending a torn canvas. I pushed the needle through his skin. He didn't scream. He just breathed, short, sharp breaths through his nose. I stitched him up, one loop after another, tying it off. I bandaged it tightly with gauze. When I was done, my hands were covered in his blood. I sat back on my heels, exhausted. He was pale, sweating, but breathing easier. He looked at me. You missed your calling, he said weakly. Should have been a surgeon. I'm a waitress, I said, wiping my tears with my sleeve. And apparently, a Mafia nurse now. He chuckled, then winced. I am not Mafia. You came home stabbed at 3 a.m. If you're an accountant, you have very aggressive clients. He looked at the ceiling. It was a warning. From Dragon Jang. He didn't like that I embarrassed his business partner's daughter tonight. Hannah? I realized. This is because of me? No, he said sharply. He turned his head to look at me. Do not flatter yourself. This war has been brewing for years. Tonight was just the spark. They think I am weak because I am focusing on art, on business. They think I have gone soft. He tried to sit up. I pushed him back down gently. Stay down. He grabbed my hand again. This time, he didn't let go. Thank you, he said. His voice was clearer now. You saved me, Iris. We're even, I said softly. You saved me at the gala. He looked at our joined hands. My dark skin against his pale hand. My blood-stained fingers against his tattoo. Why didn't you run? He asked. When you saw the blood. Why didn't you run out the door? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe I'm crazy. No, he said. He lifted my hand and pressed it to his cheek. His stubble scratched my palm. It was an incredibly intimate gesture. Loyalty. It is rarer than silver hair. He closed his eyes. Stay with me? Just until I fall asleep. I don't want to be alone in the dark. The ruthless billionaire, the king of Seoul, was asking me to stay because he was afraid of the dark? No, he wasn't afraid of the dark. He was afraid of the emptiness. I'll stay, I whispered. I sat on the floor beside the sofa. He didn't let go of my hand. Within minutes, his breathing deepened. He was asleep. I watched him sleep for hours. As the sun began to rise over Seoul, turning the sky a soft pink and gray. The light hit my hair. I looked at our reflection in the glass wall. Me, the waitress with the witch hair. Him, the monster with the scars. We were both broken things. But maybe, just maybe, we fit together. The next few weeks were surreal. Minjun healed quickly. He was stubborn, refusing to rest, running his empire from his home office. I officially started my job as his curator. It turned out, he wasn't lying. He really did have a massive collection of art, hidden in a vault beneath the house. And it was a mess. Paintings worth millions were stacked against walls. Ancient pottery was sitting in cardboard boxes. It's chaos, I told him on my third day, standing in the middle of the vault. It is why I hired you, he said, leaning against the doorframe. He was wearing a soft sweater, looking less like a killer and more like a scholar. Fix it. Make it make sense. So I did. I cataloged. I organized. I created a digital database. But my job wasn't just about art. We ate dinner together every night. Sometimes he cooked, sometimes I cooked. I made him jollof rice one night. He coughed for 10 minutes after the first bite because of the spice, but he finished the whole bowl. It is vigorous, he wheezed, drinking water. It's passion on a plate, Minjun. You Koreans think you own spicy food, but you have much to learn. He laughed. He laughed more often now. The shadows under his eyes were fading. We fell into a rhythm. A dangerous, domestic rhythm. We never talked about us. We never defined what this was. He never tried to kiss me again. But the tension was there. It was in the way he looked at me when I entered a room. It was in the way I felt his presence before I even saw him. But the world outside hadn't forgotten us. One afternoon, I was in the library, reading a book on art restoration. The house phone rang. I picked it up. Residence of Director Park. Hello, little witch. My blood ran cold. The voice was raspy oily. Who is this? Did you like the gift I sent your boyfriend? The cut on his ribs. Dragon Jang. What do you want? I gripped the phone tight. I want you to give him a message. Tell him the auction is next week. The Blue Moon diamond is up for sale. Tell him if he bids on it. I won't send a knife next time. I'll send a bomb. You're a coward, I spat. He laughed. And you are a very brave little pet. Tell him, Iris. Or don't. It will be more fun if he shows up unprepared. The line went dead. I slammed the phone down. My hands were shaking. I had to tell Minjun. I ran to his office. He was on a video call, speaking rapid-fire Japanese. When I burst in, he stopped. He saw my face and ended the call immediately. Iris? What happened? Dragon Jang called. Minjun's face turned to stone. He stood up slowly. On the house line? How did he get the number? He said if you bid on the Blue Moon diamond next week, he will kill you. He said he'll use a bomb. Min-jun walked around his desk. He didn't look scared. He looked calm. Too calm. Did he say anything else? He called me a pet. He threatened you. Min-jun reached me. He placed his hands on my shoulders. Listen to me. Jang is a barking dog. He wants the diamond to launder his money. He knows I am the only one who can outbid him. Then don't bid. I pleaded. Let him have the stupid rock. It's not worth your life. It is not about the rock, Iris, he said intensely. It is about power. If I back down, he takes the diamond. Then he takes my territory. Then he comes for this house. And then, he comes for you. He brushed his thumb over my lips. I will not let him near you. I am going to that auction. And I am going to buy that diamond. Then I'm coming with you. No. It is too dangerous. I'm your curator. I argued. If you are buying a diamond, you need me to verify it. Anne. I am not staying here alone waiting for a phone call to tell me you're dead. If you go, I go. He stared at me. He looked for fear in my eyes. He found none. Only stubbornness. He sighed, a sound of defeat and admiration. Fine. You come. But you stay by my side. You do not leave my sight for a second. And Iris? Yes. Wear the silver dress. The one I bought you. If we are going to war, let's make sure they see the flag. The auction house was underground. A secret location for the ultra-rich and the ultra-criminal. The air was thick with cigar smoke and tension. I wore a floor-length silver gown that shimmered like liquid mercury. My hair was down, wild and free, the white streak shining under the spotlights. Minjun was in a tuxedo, looking lethal. We sat in the front row. Dragon Jang was there. He was a short, stout man with gold teeth and a loud laugh. He was surrounded by 6 bodyguards. When he saw us, he stopped laughing. He dragged a finger across his throat. Minjun didn't even blink. He took my hand and kissed it right in front of Jang. A deliberate provocation. The auction began. Paintings, statues, rare coins. Millions of dollars changed hands in seconds. Then, the main event. Lot 45, the auctioneer announced. The Blue Moon Diamond. A flawless 12-carat blue diamond. Starting bid, $10 million. Minjun raised his paddle. $15 million. The room gasped. A $5 million jump? Jang's face turned purple. He raised his paddle. $16 million. Minjun, $20 million. Jang, $21. Minjun turned to me. What do you think, curator? Is it worth it? I looked at the diamond on the screen. It was beautiful. Cold. Hard. It's flawless, I said loud enough for Jang to hear. Unlike some people in this room. Minjun smirked. He raised his paddle again. $30 million. Silence. That was an insane amount of money. Jang stood up. He was shaking with rage. He looked at his men. He nodded. Suddenly, the lights went out. Pitch black. Screams erupted. I felt Minjun move instantly. He pulled me off the chair and down to the floor. Stay down, he hissed. Gunshots. Pop, pop, pop. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness like strobes. They're shooting. I screamed, covering my head. He's crazy, Minjun growled. He's trying to steal it in the dark. Minjun pulled a gun from his tuxedo jacket. I didn't even know he had it. Iris, listen to me. Crawl to the left. Under the stage. There is an exit door. Go. I'm not leaving you. Go, he roared, pushing me. I will cover you. He stood up and fired into the darkness. I saw sparks fly as bullets hit the metal railing. I crawled. My expensive dress tore on the rough carpet. I scrambled under the stage. I found the door. I pushed it open. But I didn't leave. I couldn't. I looked back. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the room in an eerie red glow. I saw Minjun. He was behind an overturned table, reloading his gun. But he was outnumbered. Jang's men were flanking him. One of them was sneaking up behind him with a knife. Minjun! Behind you! I screamed. He spun around. He shot the man, but not before the knife slashed his arm. He went down. No, I didn't think so. I didn't plan. I just reacted. I grabbed a heavy metal sculpture, a bronze bust of some dead philosopher, that was stored under the stage. I ran out. The man Minjun had shot was trying to get up, aiming his gun at Minjun's head. I swung the sculpture with all my strength. Crack. It connected with the man's head. He crumpled instantly. Minjun looked up at me, his eyes wide with shock. Blood was dripping from his arm. I told you to run, he shouted. I told you I'm not leaving. I yelled back, panting, holding the bloody sculpture like a club. He looked at me. Then he started to laugh. A wild, adrenaline-fueled laugh. He stood up, grabbed my waist, and pulled me close. You are insane, he said. I learned from the best. More men were coming. Can you run in those heels? He asked. Watch me. Then let's go. He took my hand. We ran. We ran through the chaos, through the red light, through the smoke. We burst out of the back exit into the alleyway where his car was waiting. We dove into the back seat just as the car screeched away. We were safe. We sat there, panting, covered in dust and sweat. My silver dress was ruined. His tuxedo was torn. We looked at each other. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle like the first time. It was fierce. It was desperate. It was the kiss of two people who had just cheated death. His hands tangled in my hair, gripping the silver streak like a lifeline. Iris, he murmured against my lips. My brave, crazy Iris. Don't you ever tell me to leave you again, I whispered back. Never, he promised. You're stuck with me now. But as we kissed, I saw something out the rear window. A black motorcycle was following us. The rider had a dragon emblem on his jacket. Minjun, I said, pulling away. We have company. He looked back. His eyes narrowed. Hold on tight, he said, shifting gears. The night isn't over yet. Driver, take the bridge. Fast. Minjun's voice was calm, but the tension in the car was thick enough to choke on. The motorcycle behind us was gaining speed. I could see the glint of a helmet visor under the streetlights. And he wasn't alone. Two black SUVs swerved out of a side street, flanking us. They're boxing us in. I shouted, clutching the door handle. I know, Minjun said. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was watching the road, calculating. He pressed a button on the console, and a hidden compartment opened. He pulled out a spare magazine for his gun. Iris, get down on the floor. Now. I'm not. This isn't a debate, he snapped, his eyes flashing. The glass is bulletproof, but the door panels aren't. Get down. I slid off the leather seat onto the floor mats, curling into a ball. The car swerved violently to the left. I heard the screech of tires and the sickening crunch of metal as our driver rammed one of the SUVs. Bang! Bang! Gunshots rang out, dull thuds against the reinforced glass. I covered my ears, squeezing my eyes shut. This wasn't a movie. This was real. I could smell the burning rubber. I could hear Minjun breathing hard above me. Hold on, the driver yelled. The car spun. The world tilted. We were drifting. I was thrown against the side of the door, pain shooting through my shoulder. Then a sudden stop. Silence. Is it over? I whispered. Stay down, Minjun commanded. I heard his door open. I heard him step out. Minjun, no. I scrambled up, ignoring the pain. We were on the Mapo Bridge. The car had spun out, blocking two lanes. The SUVs were behind us, engines idling. Men were getting out 6, maybe 7 of them. They held baseball bats and pipes. No guns this time. They wanted this person. Dragon Jang stepped out of the lead SUV. He looked pleased. Director Park, he called out, his voice echoing over the river. Running away? That's not like you. Minjun stood in front of the car, his jacket discarded, his white shirt stained with blood from the auction. He looked like a fallen angel. He held his gun at his side, but he didn't raise it. I am not running, Jang. I am leading you away from the civilians. How noble, Jang sneered. And where is the little witch? Hiding under the seat. Minjun took a step forward. She is none of your concern. Oh, but she is. She cost me the diamond. She cost me my face. I'm going to shave that silver hair off her head and make a trophy out of it. Something snapped in Minjun. He didn't speak. He just moved. He raised his gun and fired not at Jang, but at the front tire of Zhang's SUV. The tire exploded. The sudden noise made the thugs flinch. In that split second of distraction, Minjun charged. It was a blur. He was outnumbered 7-1, but he fought like a demon. He disarmed the first man, using the bat to block a pipe swing from the second. He moved with brutal efficiency. Crack of bone. Thud of bodies hitting the asphalt. But there were too many of them. One of the men circled behind him. He had a knife. Minjun! I screamed. I opened the car door. I didn't have a weapon, but I saw the road flare kit in the side pocket of the door. I grabbed a flare. I ripped the cap off and struck it. Bright red fire erupted with a hiss. Hey! I yelled, waving the burning flare. Get away from him. The men paused, blinded by the sudden red light. It was a demonic sight, a woman in a torn silver dress, hair wild with a white streak, holding fire in the middle of a bridge. Minjun used the distraction. He spun, kicking the knife man in the chest, sending him flying. He grabbed the last man standing, Jang, by the throat and slammed him against the hood of the SUV. Minjun put the barrel of his gun against Jang's forehead. "Give me one reason," Minjun growled, blood dripping down his face. "One reason why I shouldn't end this right now." Jang grinned, showing his gold teeth. "Because if you kill me, the triad comes for you. All of them. You can't fight an army, Park." Minjun leaned in closer. "I have fought armies before. But you made a mistake, Jang. You threatened her." "Minjun, stop." I ran toward them, the flare still sputtering in my hand. "Don't do it. Don't kill him." Minjun looked at me. His eyes were wild, consumed by adrenaline and rage. "He tried to kill us, Iris." "I know. But if you kill him here, like this, you become him." I reached out, my hand trembling, and touched his arm. "Please. Look at me. Don't let him turn you into a monster. We won." Minjun looked at Jang, then at me. He looked at the fear and the love in my eyes. Slowly, the rage receded. He lowered the gun. He leaned close to Jang's ear. "She saved your life. Remember that. If you ever come near us again, there will be no mercy." He pistol-whipped Jang across the face, knocking him unconscious. The man slumped to the ground. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. "We have to go," Minjun said. He grabbed my hand. "Leave the car. We walk." We ran to the edge of the bridge, down the maintenance stairs, disappearing into the shadows of the riverbank just as the police cruisers screeched to a halt above us. We walked for an hour in the dark, hand in hand, following the river. The adrenaline faded, replaced by exhaustion. My feet were bleeding in my heels. Minjun stopped. Without a word, he scooped me up into his arms. "Minjun, your ribs. Your arm." I protested. "I am fine," he said stubbornly. "You're hurt." He carried me until we found a small, 24-hour clinic in a quiet neighborhood. The doctor was an old friend of his, an ex-military medic who didn't ask questions. He stitched Minjun's arm. He bandaged my feet. We sat in the waiting room afterwards. The only sound was the ticking of a clock. "We can't go back to the house," Minjun said quietly. "It's compromised." "Where do we go?" "I have a safe house. In Jeju. It is isolated. Secure." He looked at me, his face serious. "Iris, this life, it will always be like this. Danger. Running. People trying to take what is mine." He took my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. "I can give you money. A new identity. A ticket to anywhere in the world. You can be safe. You can be free." My heart stopped. "Are you sending me away?" "I am giving you a choice. The choice you never had. You can leave the dangerous man and find someone normal. Someone who doesn't get shot at on Tuesdays." I looked at him. I saw the vulnerability behind the tough mask. He was terrified I would say yes. He was terrified I would leave. I reached up and touched the scar on his eyebrow. "I told you," I whispered. "I don't want normal." Normal people called me a freak. Normal people threw wine on me. You called me a masterpiece." I leaned in and kissed him softly. "I choose the danger. As long as it's with you." He let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for a lifetime. He pulled me into his chest, burying his face in my neck. "Then let's go to Jeju," he murmured. 1 year later. The gallery opening was the event of the year. The Silver and Shadow Gallery was the talk of Seoul. It wasn't in Gangnam. It was in a renovated warehouse in the arts district. I stood in the center of the room, holding a glass of champagne. This time, I wasn't serving it. I was drinking it. I wore a white suit, sharp and tailored. My hair was loose, huge, and glorious, the silver streak shining brighter than any diamond in the room. "Mrs. Park," a reporter called out. "Can you tell us about the centerpiece of the exhibit?" I smiled. "It's called Resilience." I pointed to the main wall. It was a massive painting. It was abstract, a chaotic storm of dark gray and black strokes, violent and messy. but cutting through the center was a single, perfect line of real silver leaf. It was beautiful. It was us. Minjun walked up behind me. He wrapped his arm around my waist. He looked healthy, happy. The darkness was gone from his eyes. They love it, he whispered in my ear. Of course they do. I curated it, I teased. He laughed. He kissed my temple, right on the silver streak. Director Park, the reporter shouted again. Is it true you retired from the shipping business to run this gallery with your wife? Minjun smiled. A real smile. Let's just say, he said, looking at me with absolute adoration, I found something more valuable to protect. He turned to me, ignoring the cameras. Ready to go home, curator? Ready, boss. We walked out of the gallery together, into the warm Seoul night. The flashing lights of the cameras faded behind us. We didn't need the spotlight. We had our own light. Silver in the darkness. Thank you for watching this story on Stories Pulse. Love is not about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who loves your imperfections. If you enjoyed Iris and Minjun's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. And tell me in the comments what makes you unique. See you in the next video.